Good afternoon, dear parents and families, community members of HES Academies, and welcome to another family engagement broadcast. This is Mr. Sharafuddin, Family Engagement and Community Liaison at HES Academies. And with me is Omnia Abdullah from LAHC. Today's presentation is going to be about communication skills, مهارات التواصل. Omnia Abdullah, she's a substance abuse prevention specialist and a program coordinator at LAHC. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from Oakland University and a Master's of Science and Health Science with a public health concentration from Touro University worldwide. After exploring different aspects of healthcare and education, Omnia landed this position, allowing her to influence the health of the community through prevention. Once a refugee, Omnia has taken her past experiences and bilingual skills and applied them, understanding and improving the lives of people in the diverse local community. She's a familiar face in many high school classrooms as she facilitates the life skills program and also familiar with parents through different parenting engagement sessions. Welcome, Omnia. Omnia, do you hear me? Omnia, do you hear me? I don't think she hears me. Omnia, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I'm sorry, I could not hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, great. So I introduced you and we're ready now for your presentation. So you can take it from there.
Alrighty, perfect. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me here. It is my pleasure. Today, as everybody has noticed, we have quickly become a community and a society that really focuses on communication. We're always communicating. We're listening, we're talking, we're chatting, and we're reading things. So we're always in communication with other people. Even though nowadays our one-on-one communication is not as much as it used to be before, but it's definitely something that we still do every now and then. So today I wanted to bring this topic to your attention, communication skills. I wanted to touch on a few different mistakes that we might be facing, especially when we're talking to our children, how we can fix them, and how can we build really good communication skills in our younger children. So أهلا وسهلا فيكم اليوم. اليوم رح نحكي عن مهارات التواصل. نحن صايرين مجتمع كل يوم بنحكي وبنتواصل مع الناس اللي حوالينا بطرق مختلفة. نحن بنسمع، بنقرأ وبنحكي كمان مع الناس اللي حوالينا. اليوم بدنا نحكي عن هدول المهارات، شو هي الأخطاء اللي نحن ممكن نوعى فيها، وكمان كيف ممكن نعدل الأخطاء اللي ممكن نوعى فيها. To start, let's just kind of talk about why these skills are really important. So having good communication skills, especially in our children, is going to help them convey and talk about their opinions, their feelings, and communicate with others and share ideas in a better way. It can also raise their IQ, and those who have really good communication skills will have even better written skills. These written skills are going to help them obviously in school and also in their careers moving forward. And some studies have also shown that students or children that are lacking in their communication skills might face things like depression, social withdrawal, or even low self-esteem. So it's really important to focus on these skills, especially in their younger ages, and continue to build them as they grow. So قبل ما نبدأ السيشن اليوم، خلينا نحكي عن أهمية هالموضوع، أهمية هالمهارات اللي تكون عند أولادنا، وكمان نحن عندنا هالمهارات. مهارات التواصل ممكن تساعد أولادنا ليعبروا عن حالهم، ليعبروا عن أفكارهم، ولا يبدلوا المعلومات بينهم وبين رفقاتهم والمجتمع حواليهم. هالشي رح كمان يعزز ذكائهم الاجتماعي. الأولاد اللي عندهم مهارات تواصل منيحة هالشي رح يساعدهم على إنه يبنوا المهارات الكتابية اللي عندهم، وهالشي رح يساعدهم بالمدرسة وكمان لما بيكبروا ويشتغلوا. وفي دراسات بتقول إنه الأولاد اللي عندهم مشاكل بالتواصل أو بمهارات التواصل ممكن بس يكبروا يصير عندهم اكتئاب، انسحاب اجتماعي، أو ممكن يصير عندهم انخفاض باحترام الذات. So let's take a look at some of those mistakes that we might be doing unintentionally, especially when we're talking to our children. A lot of times we use sentences that are a little bit blaming. And what I mean by that is if I was to say, you make me angry, or you make me frustrated, or you frustrate me, if we use any of these sentences, especially when we're talking to our children, these sentences are blaming sentences. They show that our children have a little bit more power over our own personal feelings. And it's also going to send the message that we can't handle our own feelings in a good and adequate manner. We'll talk about how we can fix them and look at a few different examples of those you messages and how we can really build them in a better way. So أول خطأ رح نحكي عنه اليوم هو لما نحن بنحكي خصوصا مع أولادنا بنقول أنت بتزعجني أو أنت بتوترني أو أي جملة بتشبه هدول الجمل. لما نحن نستخدم هالجمل نحن عم بنقول للشخص اللي قدامنا خصوصا أولادنا إنه نحن عم بنحط اللوم عليهم وهن عندهم قدرة ليتحكموا بمشاعرنا أكثر من حالنا. هالشي رح يفرجيهم إنه نحن ضعيفين خصوصا لما بنحكي عن مشاعرنا، وكمان نحن منا أو ما عندنا كفاءة تكفي نتحمل مسؤولية هالمشاعر. رح أعطيكم أكثر من example أو أكثر من مثل، ورح نحكي عن كيف ممكن نصحح هالخطأ. So to start, we're just going to compare two different types of statements. So we're going to compare I statements and we're going to compare those with you statements. They're very simple, as the name suggests. If I'm using an I statement, I'm talking about myself or things that belong to me. So really, the whole difference centers around ownership. Again, I statements really all belong to me, and you statements, as the name suggests, is really talking about someone else, not us at all. So نحن رح نحكي عن نوعين من الجمل. رح نحكي عن الجمل اللي فيها كلمة أنا والجمل اللي فيها كلمة أنت. مثل ما عم نشوفوا الاختلاف ممكن يكون كتير بسيط. هي الاختلاف بيكون بين الملكية. إذا أنا عم بستخدم جملة أنا يعني عم بحكي عن حالي، بس عم بستخدم جملة أنت عم بحكي عن الشخص اللي قدامي أو شخص ثاني. خلينا نشوف أمثلة أكتر عن هدول الجمل. So if I'm using I statements, again, remember, I'm talking about my feelings, what I need, and what I think. If we think back to our example of, you make me feel frustrated or you make me angry, that's my feeling, but I'm putting on someone else. So we can fix it, and I can show you how to do that. Another example here is the you statements. So as the name suggests, again, we're talking about someone else. So we're talking about someone else's feelings, someone else's needs, and also what someone else thinks. I'll give you a little bit more insight on those two different things. So لما نحن عم نحكي وعم نستخدم جمل أنا again مثل ما قلنا نحن عم نحكي عن حالنا. So عم بحكي عن كيف عم بحس، شو بحتاج، وكمان شو عم فكر. ولما بستخدم جمل أنت عم بحكي عن الشخص الثاني. So عم بحكي عن مشاعر الشخص الثاني، أحاسيسه، أو شو بيحتاج أو شو عم بيفكر. So if we're talking about I statements, we can easily say them in an inappropriate way. If we do this, we can hurt someone else's feelings. We can give off the wrong idea. So let's look at a few different examples and how to fix them and say them in a better or more appropriate way. So if I was to say, I'm so upset at what you're doing right now that I'm going to get a heart attack, that's a little inappropriate. This is me kind of being manipulative and also blaming someone else for my feelings. Another example would be, if you don't do things my way, I'm going to get a headache. So if I was to say this, I'm kind of going to guilt the person in front of me, and also I'm going to try to manipulate or control their behaviors. So a better way to kind of put my point across and use I statements in a better manner, I could say, I'm angry because the room is not clean. So here I'm no longer talking about the person, I'm talking about the thing that's really bothering me. And to fix the second example, we can say something like, I need to spend some time alone. to just kind of relax and unwind. So again, here we're really focusing on the source of the problem, or the source or the reason that's causing us to feel a certain way, as opposed to the person who's really making us feel that way. And we will also look at you messages and how to alter them and use them in a more appropriate way as well. So لما بنحكي عن جمل أنا فينا نستخدم هالجمل بطريقة منا صحيحة مثل ما قلنا. So إذا أنا قلت إنه أنا منزعجة بسبب الشيء اللي عم تعمله ورح يصير عندي نوبة قلبية، نحن كتير بنستخدم هالجمل، بس هالجمل ممكن نقولها بطريقة أحسن. إذا أنا استخدمت هالجملة أنا عم بقول إنه الشخص اللي قدامي هو اللي رح يسبب لي النوبة القلبية. فينا نصحح هالجملة، بس خلينا نشوف مثل تاني قبل ما نصححها. كمان فيني أقول إنه إذا ما رح تعمل شيء مثل ما أنا بدي رح يصير عندي صداع أو وجع رأس. إذا أنا عم بحكي هيك أو عم بستخدم هالجمل، أنا رح أكون عم بحاول إني سيطر على تصرفات الشخص اللي قدامي. أنا ما بدي أعمل هيك، بدي صحح هالجمل. لصححهم بدي أقول إنه أنا منزعجة لأنه الغرفة منا نظيفة. انتبهوا هون نحن شو غيرنا سبب المشاعر. قبل إنه أنت عم بتخليني انزعج، هلأ بالعكس هلأ حكينا عن السبب اللي يخلينا مزعوجين. والجملة الثانية كمان ممكن نصححها وفينا نقول إنه أنا بحاجة لأقضي وقت لحالي منشان أهدى أكتر. again هون ما عم نحكي عن الشخص، عم نحكي عن الشيء اللي عم بيوترنا أو عم بيخلينا نحس بتوتر. So let's kind of go through a quick, how to put these sentences together. So again, these are I statements that are all about me and no one else. So first, what you want to do is get your feeling. What are you feeling? Are you feeling sad, frustrated, excited? What is the feeling that you're feeling? Then say when. When does that happen? When do you feel frustrated? When do you feel sad? Or you can say the reason. So again, I feel frustrated because I can't concentrate because of the loud noise. So the loud noise could be your reason. The room is not clean could be another reason. But whatever it is, focus on the reason and not the person. And then you can end your statement with saying what you want to be done in order to fix the situation. هلا خلينا نشوف شو أو كيف ممكن نحط هالجمل بطريقة صحيحة لما عم نحكي نحن على جمل أنا أو الجمل اللي فيها كلمة أنا. أول شيء لازم نحكي عن مشاعرنا. أنا فرحانة، زعلانة، متوترة، whatever it is. خلينا أول شيء نبدأ بالشعور. بعدين فينا نقول الوقت أو شو هو السلوك اللي بيسبب لنا هالأحاسيس، أو ممكن نحكي عن السبب. ممكن نقول أنا متضايقة لأنه انكسرت لعبتي، أو أنا متضايقة لأنه الغرفة منا نظيفة. فكروا بالسبب أو الشيء اللي عم بيسبب لكم هالأحاسيس. وآخر شيء ممكن تقولوه بهالجملة، فيكم تقولوا الشيء اللي ممكن نعمله لنغير هالأحاسيس أو لنصححهم. So now let's take a look at you statements. So you statements can also be used in wrong ways. So a lot of times whenever we're feeling feelings of discomfort, and that's our word for negative feelings, we don't like to use that. We like to say feelings of discomfort. When we feel like that, it's really easy for us to just put those feelings onto someone else and blame someone else for it instead of taking responsibility. So what does it sound like? This sounds like you make me angry, you make me sad, you make me frustrated. All of these sentences are us putting our feelings on someone else instead of taking responsibility for them ourselves. We see this a lot in younger children too. If you've ever noticed a child say, oh, he made me do it, or he told me to do it, this is also an example of them putting on those feelings or the responsibility on someone else other than themselves. And we can fix this as well by, just talking about the actual thing instead of the person. هلا خلينا نحكي عن الجمل اللي فيها كلمة أنت. كتير من الأحيان لما نحن بيصير عنا أحاسيس عدم الراحة، وهدول مثل الغضب أو التوتر، نحن من السهل إنه نقول أو نحط هالأحاسيس على شخص تاني، أو المسؤولية بنحطها على شخص تاني. شو ممكن نقول؟ فيني أقول إنه أنت بتخليني أغضب، أو أنت بتزعجني. هدول الأمثلة أو هدول الجمل جمل فيني حط المسؤولية على شخص تاني وما بتحمل هالمسؤولية لحالي. كمان هدول الجمل بنشوفهم عند الأولاد الصغار. إذا الولد عمل شيء منه صحيح أو كسر شيء، دايما بيقول إنه هي قالت لي أعمل هيك، أو هو قال لي أعمل إيه هيك، رفيقتي أو في قال لي أعمل هيك. هي مثل للولد لما بيحط المسؤولية على شخص ثاني مشان ما يتحملها لحاله. So let's look at better ways that we can use those use statements. The first one is really good, especially with children. Give them a choice. You can use those statements to really give a child a choice. An example of that is to tell your child that you have a choice. You have a chore. It could be something like cleaning your room. You can either do it now or you can do it later, but by 6 o'clock, I need the room to be clean. If it's not, then there are consequences. It could be no ice cream, it could be no TV time, whatever it is that you think is appropriate for your child. This is giving your child a lot more responsibility, and also they're going to feel a little bit more self-worth. They're going to feel like they have a choice and that they're not being controlled through the things that they have to do. Another really good way to use statements is to give praise. So whenever you see positive behavior, especially in your children, we want to reward that. We want to encourage it, and we can do that by praising them. It doesn't always have to be gifts and things like that. Instead, it could be things like, you did a great job, you must be feeling really proud. So all of these examples are ways that you can use statements in a better way and a more effective way as well. We'll look at a few more here as well. So نحن لما بنستخدم جمل أنت فينا نستخدمها بأكثر من طريقة، وهدول الطرق كلهم صحيحين. في 5 طرق، هدول أول 2. أول طريقة بدي أحكي عنها هي لما نحن بنمدح بالولد اللي قدامنا، خصوصا إذا عم يعمل شيء منيح. كل ما أولادنا عملوا شيء منيح لازم نمدحهم مشان يضلوا يعملوا هالشيء، يكرروا هالسلوك المنيح. أنا فيني أقول أحسنت، أنا فيني أقول إنه أنا فخورة فيك، أو أنت لازم تكون فخور بحالك. هدول الجمل جمل ملاح لهالكلمة أو لهالجمل اللي فيهم كلمة أنت. كمان فينا نستخدمهم لما بدنا نعطي اختيار للشخص اللي قدامنا، خصوصا للأولاد الصغار. إذا بدنا نعطيهم اختيار فينا نقول إنه لازم تنظفوا غرفتكم اليوم، فيكم تنظفوها هلأ أو بعدين، بس يصير الساعة 6 لازم تكون الغرفة نظيفة. إذا ما نظفوا الغرفة فيكم تعطوهم شيء، ممكن تقولوا لهم ما رح تتفرجوا على التلفزيون أو ما رح تاكلوا آيس كريم. فلما تعطوهم هالاختيار هن راح يحسوا بقيمة حالهم، وراح يحسوا إنه هن بيقدروا يعملوا هالاختيار وما في حدا عم بيتحكم فيهم ولا بحياتهم. Other ways that you can use statements or messages are to ask a question. So whenever you're asking a question to a person, it is usually a use statement, and it's a very good and effective way to use those statements. Clarifications is another great way to use the statement. So if you see something and you're not sure of it, you want to clarify it, you can use statements. It's similar to a question, but it's more of clarification purposes. So you probably state what you're thinking first. So you can say things like, you seem to be hungry, I see that you're not really into the movie, you don't like it. All of these statements are really good uses for use statements. You can also use them to reflect feelings. So if we see someone and their facial expressions say that they're sad or frustrated, and we can see that on their face, we can say that. You can say, hey, I see that you're frustrated. That's another really good way to use those use statements here. في 3 طرق تانيين لازم نحكي عنهم لما بنستخدم هالجمل. إذا نحن عم بنفكر بالمشاعر أو عم بنشوف مشاعر الشخص اللي قدامنا عبر تعابير وشهم أو الشيء اللي عم بيقولوه، فينا نتأكد من هالشيء. فينا نقول إنه عم شوف إنه أنتم متضايقين أو زعلانين. فينا نقول هالشيء لنتأكد من مشاعرهم اللي عم بنشوفها، أو فينا نوضح الشيء اللي عم بنشوفه. إذا نحن عم نتفرج على فيلم وعم نشوف إنه الشخص ما عم بيحب هالفيلم أو منه مرتاح، فينا نسأل هالسؤال أو نسأله ليوضح شو عم بيحس. ولما بنسأل أسئلة كمان فينا نستخدم هالجمل. جمل أنت، هل أنت جوعان؟ أنت بتحب هالفيلم؟ شو بدك تعمل؟ كل هالأسئلة فينا نستخدم كلمة أنت بطريقة صحيحة فيهم. So after we've looked at I statements and you statements, and we've all cleared, any mistakes that we might have, does that mean we're never going to have any arguments at home? Unfortunately, I can't say that. Argument the best of homes, and that's okay, and that's completely normal. But what's important is working together, especially with your children, to fix those misunderstandings, to clear the air, and kind of negotiate or compromise depending on the situation. And we'll talk about things that you can do to make sure that you're negotiating, you're listening to your children, and coming up with the best solutions for your family. هلا نحن عرفنا شو هدول الجمل، شو الفرق بيناتهم، وشو هي الطريقة الصحيحة اللي بدنا نستخدم هالجمل. بس هذا الشيء ما معناته إنه نحن ما رح يكون عنا مشاكل أو أي شيء بالبيت ما رح يمشي صح. بالعكس من الطبيعي إنه يصير عنا مشاكل بالبيت، بس لازم نشتغل مع أولادنا نحل هالمشاكل، وإذا ممكن لازم نتفاوض معهم ونلاقي حل للمشكلة. So how can we compromise and how can we negotiate? The first thing is to determine what the situation is, understand what your side is and what your child's side of the problem is. So why is there a disagreement? Then go ahead and state your feelings, your thoughts, and your point of view on the whole situation. So could be anything, but take the time to talk about your own personal feelings towards it, and then also ask your child how they feel. So a simple example could be your child asking to go visit their friends. And you could say no. The best tip here before we move forward is to give a really good reason. So it could be something like, there are no adults in the home, I don't feel comfortable. That's a great reason to give. And your children should be able to understand it. It could be something like they don't live in a safe environment, or it could be just a worry from COVID and the pandemic in general. So go ahead and state your reasons. Give a solid reason. Your children are always going to ask for that. And also listen to them. So ask them what their point of view on this whole situation is. They could say that they are old enough, or the parents will come later. They could say that everyone in the house is vaccinated or hasn't been seeing other people when it comes to the pandemic. So don't only state your point of view, but also listen to your child's point of view so you guys can come to a solution a little bit better. Now, compromise is another thing that you can offer. If your child wants to, I don't know, get more money for their weekly allowance or monthly allowance, you don't have to always say no. You can compromise. So you can tell them, yeah, I can give you the 20, the 10, the $5 extra if you help me with more chores around the house, or if you watch over your younger siblings for a night. Whatever it is, you can compromise, you can take and give in order to kind of come up with the best solution for all of you as a family. So إذا في مشاكل أو شيء أنتم ما بتفكروا بنفس الطريقة مع أولادكم، فيكم تتفاوضوا أو تساووا الأفكار. أول شيء لازم تعملوه إنه تحددوا شو هي المشكلة. So ليه في اختلاف الرأي بينكم وبين أولادكم؟ احكوا عن رأيكم، وضحوا رأيكم، خصوصا إذا أولادكم بدهم شيء وأنتم عم تقولوا لا، لازم تقولوا لهم شو هو السبب. كثير من الأحيان أولادنا ما رح يفهموا لا لحالها، بدهم سبب ياخدوا وجهة نظركم أكتر. كمان لازم تسألوهم عن أفكارهم ووجهة نظرهم. هالشي رح يساعدكم لتحلوا المشكلة بطريقة أسرع بوقت أقل كمان. So لأعطيكم مثال، ممكن أولادكم يجوا يسألوكم إنكم أنا بدي أروح عند رفقاتي اليوم. أنتوا فيكم تقولوا لا، بس لازم تعطوهم سبب. So ممكن تقولوا إنه ما بدكم إياهم يروحوا لأنه ما في حدا كبير بالبيت، المنطقة اللي بيعيشوا فيها منا منيحة، أو لازم تسوقوا بعيد لتروحوا لعندهم، أو فيكم تقولوا إنه أنتوا خايفين من المرض أو من الفيروس، أو أي سبب أنتوا عندكم إياه اللي يخليكم تقولوا لا. أولادكم كمان فيهم يحكوا عن وجهة نظرهم، وهالشي رح يساعدكم لتحلوا المشكلة شوي بطريقة أسرع. Another thing that you can do, or آخر شيء ممكن تعملوه، إنه فيكم تتفاوضوا أو تتساووا. So إذا أولادكم كان بدهم مصاري أكتر للأسبوع أو للشهر، ما لازم دايما تقولوا لا، فيكم تقولوا إيه، بس تقولوا لهم إذا أنا رح أعطيكم مصاري أكتر لازم تساعدوني بالبيت أكتر. So ممكن تتفاوضوا وتلاقوا حل وسط منشان تحلوا هالمشاكل اللي عندكم إياها بالبيت. So now that we know how to kind of clear any frustrations that we have at home, let's kind of look at what are those skills that our children need to have. So we've covered ourselves. We know how to use I statements. We know how to use you statements, and we also know how to clear any arguments. Let's talk about our children. What are those important basic skills that they need to have, especially at a young age? From a young age, it's really important for us to teach our children that good eye contact. I know this can be really difficult, especially now when our children are talking less to real people and more to people behind screens. But it is something that can be practiced at home. Practice it with them. So when you're talking to them, don't be on your phone or reading something. Instead, engage in that eye contact, especially when they are younger, so they can build it up as they grow. Learning to speak correctly and in a clear manner is also really, really important. So making sure that they're pronouncing things correctly and clearly and in an understandable way. All of these things are important. Interpreting conversations is, again, something that's important. So are they listening to you and understanding what you're saying, or they're really not getting it? This is a good skill to build. This can be done through showing them exactly what you mean. So if I tell a little kid, hey, let's clean up, they might not understand what clean up means, but if you do it in front of them, they'll understand and make that connection that cleaning up means picking up these toys and putting them back where they belong. In addition to talking clearly, having that good eye contact, being able to listen and listen in a good manner is really important as well. So when they're having a conversation, it's important to listen and talk as well. Positive body language is another one. Again, this is one of those skills that are a little bit harder to build now, especially that we're pretty much talking to more screens than people. But it is something that, again, you can build at home. So engage in the conversation with positive body language and really teach your children to be engaged as well. So شو هي هالمهارات اللي لازم نأسسها عند أولادنا؟ احنا حكينا عن حالنا قبل شوي، حكينا عن الجمل، حكينا عن الأخطاء اللي ممكن نقع فيها. هلا خلينا نحكي عن أولادنا، شو هي المهارات اللي لازم نبنيها عند أولادنا، خصوصا الأولاد الصغار. أول مهارة بدي أحكي عنها هو إنه نطلع بعين الواحد اللي عم نحكي معه. هالشي ممكن يكون شوي صعب، خصوصا لأنه هلا نحن عم نحكي مع الناس من خلال الشاشات. أنا بقعد ورا شاشة وبحكي مع شخص تاني، بس أكيد في ناس بالبيت ممكن أحكي معهم ودرب أولادي على هالنظرة العين لما بحكي مع الشخص اللي قدامي. إذا أولادكم عم بيحكوا معكم، ما تطلعوا بالتلفزيون، ما تطلعوا بالتليفون، طلعوا بعيونهم واحكوا معه. هالشي رح يعلمهم إنه لازم هن كمان يطلعوا بعين الشخص اللي عم بيحكوا معه. هلا اللفظ والحكي الصحيح كمان شيء كتير مهم. الأولاد الصغار ممكن يكون عندهم مشاكل بهالشي أكتر، بس كل ما كبروا وسمعوكم عم تحكوا بطريقة صحيحة وواضحة، كل ما هن كمان تعلموا هالشي. في مهارة تانية نحن ما كتير بنحكي عنها، دايما بنحكي عن الحكي، بس كمان لما بنسمع الشخص التاني بطريقة صحيحة، هالشي كتير مهم وبيع بالمهارات الأساسية للتواصل. وغير هدول كمان لغة الجسد الإيجابية. هالشي كمان ممكن يكون صعب لأنه نحن ما بنشوف ناس كتير، بس فيهم يتعلموا هالشي منكم. فيهم يتعلموا إنه إذا في حدا عم يحكي معي لازم اندار وشوف شو عم بيقلي. Another thing to pay attention to is هل ابنك أو طفلك عم بيعرف شو عم بتقول، عم بيفهم، عم بيستوعب هالحكي ولا لا. أسهل طريقة لتبنوا هالمهارة إنه تعملوا الشيء اللي عم بتقولوا لهم إياه. إذا أنا قلت لأولادي خلينا ننظف الغرفة، ممكن هن ما بيعرفوا شو معنات هالشيء، بس إذا فرجيتهم إني أنا عم ننظف الغرفة هن رح يتعلموا معنات هالكلمات. We know that not every child is going to be, perfect and going to develop those communication skills very quickly. Some of them might have struggles, some might have a little bit of a challenge when they're building those skills, but that's completely okay. And there are ways to fix that and build them up as well. The first one is just being very open, allowing our children to come to us and have open conversations with us. If we are not very inviting, then our children are probably not going to come to us to have a conversation. And then they're not going to have as much practice talking to other people. So really be open, have your child feel comfortable approaching you whenever they want to have a conversation. And this will help them get more practice. Another one is giving them time to process what you're saying and also build their sentences in their brains. Younger children take a few more seconds than us to build a whole sentence. So if you ask them a question, they might not answer you right away. They'll take a few seconds to really build that sentence in their brain and then say it out loud. Now, when we're talking about pronunciations and saying things correctly, we can quickly start to overcorrect our children. So if we're correcting every single mistake that they make, and if they make a lot of mistakes, then our children are quickly going to feel discouraged, especially when having conversations, because they're going to feel like they're not good and they're not doing a great job. So let's avoid that. Let's correct them, but not overcorrect them. This point is specifically important for those bilingual parents. So if your children speak more than one language, let's say English and Arabic, if they are school age, they're probably doing a lot better in English than they are in Arabic. And whenever they try to speak in Arabic, they're probably going to make a lot of mistakes. If we continue to overcorrect those mistakes, they're going to feel embarrassed and they're going to be like, you know what, I'm just not going to talk in Arabic. And over time, they'll lose it a little bit more. So let's avoid that. Let's give them the freedom to talk, give them the freedom to make mistakes. Yes, it's important for us to correct them, but try to avoid overcorrecting every single sentence or word that they say in a wrong way. Another really important thing that you do, and I always bring this up in all of my session, is modeling good behavior or good speaking and listening behavior. Especially for our little kids, we always say, no, they're not really paying attention to us, but they really are. They're paying attention to you. They're watching every move. And they really are going to copy you and do the same things that you're doing. So if you're modeling good body language, good eye contact, and good communication skills, then they are going to copy you and they are going to learn from you very quickly. And then when you're having a conversation with them, take turns, take practice with them a few different conversations at home. So if you see that they are struggling, offer to have more practice conversations at home. So ما كل أولادنا رح يكبروا ويصير عندهم قدرة كتير منيحة للتواصل. في من أولاد في عندهم مشاكل أو ما رح يبنوا هالمهارة بطريقة كتير سريعة. ففي أكتر من شيء ممكن نعمله لنساعدهم ليبنوا هالمهارة بطريقة أحسن. أول شيء لازم نسمح لهم إنه يحكوا معنا بأي وقت هن بدهم إياه. So لازم دايما نخليهم يحكوا معنا. إذا هن ما بيحبوا يحكوا معنا أو بيخافوا يحكوا معنا، هن ما رح يجوا يحكوا معنا وما رح يصير عندهم practice أو ما رح يمارسوا هالحكي مع الأشخاص اللي حواليهم. كمان لازم نعطيهم دور. So ما دايما نحن بنحكي، لازم نعطيهم دور لهن يحكوا عن مشاعرهم وعن أفكارهم عن الأشياء اللي عم يعملوها كل يوم. وكأهل نحن لازم نعطيهم نموذج كتير منيح. So أولادنا خاصة الأولاد الصغار دايما عم يسمعونا، دايما عم يتفرجوا على الأشياء اللي نحن عم نعملها وهن رح يقلدونا من دون ما نحس. So إذا نحن عم بنحكي بطريقة صحيحة، بنحكي بطريقة منيحة، هن رح يتعلموا هالشي. هلا الأهل اللي بيحكوا أكتر من لغة، خصوصا الإنجليزي والعربي، كمان رح يحبوا إنه أولادهم يعرفوا عربي وإنجليزي. بس يبدوا أولادنا يروحوا على المدرسة رح يعرفوا إنجليزي شوي أكتر ورح يعملوا أخطاء أو رح يحكوا بطريقة منا كتير صحيحة بالعربي. فمن الصحيح إنه نحن رح نصحح لهم هالأخطاء وبنقول لهم إنه ما لازم نحكي هيك، هاي الطريقة صحيحة لنحكي. بس إذا دايما بعد كل شيء قالوه أولادنا بلغة تانية نحن صححنا لهم إياه، هن رح يستحوا ما رح يعودوا يحكوا هاللغة. فخلينا نتجنب التصحيح الكتير. So معلش صححوا لهم بس ما صححوا لهم كتير لما يخجلوا ما يستخدموا هاللغة مرة تانية. والأولاد الصغار لازم نعرف إنه هن بياخدوا وقت ليركبوا الجمل براسهم. So نحن بثانيتين أكتر actually أقل من ثانية فينا نقول جملة كاملة، بس الأولاد الصغار بدهم وقت ليركبوا هالجمل ويحطوا الكلمات بتسلسل صحيح. So أعطوهم هالوقت ليفكروا فيهم ويقولوا هالجمل بطريقة صحيحة. So other than that, other than giving them the time, practicing with them, showing them good communication skills, what else can we do to build those skills? We can play a few different games, and I'll share 3 of them with you today. The first one is show and tell. A lot of us are very familiar with this one. Our kids always take objects or toys to school to show their classmates, but here at home, I want you to do it a little bit differently. So instead of giving your child an object, give them a topic. It could be their favorite book, their favorite game, or it could even be something as simple as their favorite food. And tell them to give you 5 different sentences or however many you want or think your child can come up with in regards to this topic that you gave them. So it could be about a book. So you can tell them, tell me about this book. Tell me what the story of this book is in 5 sentences. If you think they need more, give them more sentences. This is really going to help them build meaningful conversations, meaningful sentences based on something that they know. The second game that I want to talk about is picture storytelling. This one is great. You can look at pictures from online. It could be your own personal pictures. You can help your child draw a picture and use it to tell a story. So show your child any picture. Could be similar to the one that we have here in the background, and tell them to tell you what they see. Set the stage. So they could say something like, these kids look like they are in school and they are in recess time, so they are playing with a few different things. They can say, they became friends at the park, or they're on a play date. They could really say anything. They can make up a story based on something that they see. This is again going to help them interpret what they see and use their words to build good sentences and tell you and describe what they are seeing in the picture. And this will also provide more examples. So غير إنه نحكي مع أولادنا ونعطيهم وقت ليفكروا بالحكي وكمان نصحح لهم لما بيعملوا أخطاء، فينا نلعب أكثر من لعبة مع أولادنا لنعلمهم كيف يحكوا أو لنعطيهم فرص أكثر ليجربوا يحكوا بطريقة صحيحة أو ليركبوا جمل مختلفة. أول لعبة بدي أحكي عنها هي الإظهار والإخبار. So ولادنا الصغار دايما بيروحوا على المدرسة بياخدوا ألعاب معهم ليفرجوها لأصحابهم. إحنا رح نعمل نفس اللعبة بالبيت بس رح نغيرها شوي. So نحن رح نعطي ولادنا شيء مختلف. نحن ما رح نعطيهم object، نحن رح نعطيهم موضوع. So ممكن نقول لهم احكوا عن كتابكم المفضل، عن لعبتكم اللي كتير بتحبوها، أو عن أكل أنتم بتحبوه. أي موضوع هن بيعرفوه وبيعرفوا يحكوا عنه. قولوا لهم أعطوني 5 جمل أو 10 جمل أو الرقم اللي أنتم بدكم إياه لتحكوا عن هالكتاب أو هاللعبة. هذا الشيء رح يساعدهم على إنه يعملوا جمل مختلفة وجمل مفيدة عن هدول المواضيع. اللعبة الثانية اللي فيكم تلعبوا فيها هي القصة المصورة. فيكم تلاقوا صور من الإنترنت، ممكن تكون صوركم الخاصة أو ممكن ترسموا صورة مع أولادكم وتفرجوهم إياها يقولوا لكم القصة الموجودة بهالصورة. So إذا نحن استخدمنا الصورة الموجودة هلأ على السكرين، أي ولد فيه يقول إنه هدول رفقة بالمدرسة وعم بيلعبوا سوا وقت الفرصة، أو ممكن يقولوا إنه هدول إخوة وعم بيلعبوا برا مع بعض. فيهم يعملوا أي قصة هن بدهم إياها من خلال هالصورة، وهالشي كمان رح يساعدهم ليتدربوا على الحكي وعلى كيف يحطوا جمل مفيدة مع بعض. The third game that I want to talk about is emotional charades. So this specific game here is not for verbal communication. Instead, this is for our body language or non-verbal communication. So you can play this game in a lot of different ways, really up to you. I'm going to give you a few here. So you can change your own facial expressions to mimic different feelings. So you can change your expressions to show that you're happy, you're sad, you're frustrated, you're surprised. Whatever it is, you can change those expressions, your personal facial expressions, and tell your child to name the emotion. This is going to help them see a facial expression and recognize the feeling behind it. You can do the opposite as well. You can have your child practice those different facial expressions and have you name them. Or tell your child, show me what it would look like if you were happy, or show me what it would look like if you were sad or frustrated, and have your child kind of practice that facial expression. This is going to help them connect the name of the emotion with the facial expression they would be seeing. The third and final way that you can play this is through cards or drawings. So you can print out different cards with different facial expressions, or you can draw them with your children on a piece of paper and talk about them. So we can draw a smiley face, a frown, a frustrated face, crossed eyebrows, whatever it is, any facial expression that mimics a certain feeling. Again, this is really going to help your child understand how to express their feelings without using words, how to use proper body language, and also how to understand someone else's emotions that they're trying to portray through their facial expressions. آخر لعبة بدي أحكي عنها اليوم هي لعبة رح تساعد أولادكم يبنوا مهارة ما لها علاقة بالحكي، بس بالعكس هي مهارة فيهم يحكوا عن أو يعبروا عن أحاسيسهم بدون ما يحكوا. هاللعبة اسمها الحزورات العاطفية. فيكم تلعبوها بأكثر من طريقة. فيكم تغيروا تعابير وشكم لتفرجوا إنه أنتم فرحانين، زعلانين، غضبانين أو متوترين، وتسألوا أولادكم ليحزروا شو هي العاطفة اللي أنتم عم بتحاولوا تفرجون إياها. وفيكم تعملوا العكس. فيكم تقولوا لأولادكم فرجوني شو تعابير وشكم إذا كنتوا فرحانين أو إذا كنتوا مبسوطين أو زعلانين. Whatever it is, give them a emotion. أعطوهم أحاسيس لا يفرجوكم إياها عن تعابير وشهم. الطريقة الثالثة اللي فيكم تلعبوا هاللعبة فيكم تلعبوا فيها عن خلال الصور، أو فيكم ترسموا هالتعابير الوش على ورقة وتسألوا أولادكم شو معنات هالتعابير. هاللعبة رح تساعد أولادكم ليفهموا تعابير الوش وكيف ممكن يعرفوا شو واحد عم بيحس بدون ما يحكوا معه، بس يشوفوا هالتعابير على وشه بيعرفوا شو عم بيحس. So all in all, our kids are learning from us. Keep that in mind. As always, they're watching you very closely, even though you might not know it and might not think that they are, but they really are paying attention to you. They will be copying you. If you pay attention to them when they're playing house, especially the little ones, they would be doing things exactly like you. So be mindful of things that you do around your children. Be aware that they are watching you and learning from you as well. Communication here, like we talked about, is a very important skill. It's not only going to help your child to communicate their thoughts and their feelings, it's also going to help them academically. It's going to help them build good connections and good relationships with others as well. And don't be sad if your child isn't perfect yet. This takes time. Not every child learns and develops the skill at the same pace as everybody else, but give them the time and room to really understand and practice these different skills with you. قبل ما نخلص اليوم بس بدي أقول إنه انتبهوا إنه أولادكم عم يتفرجوا عليكم وعم بيعرفوا شو عم تعملوا، وهن رح يقلدوكم حتى لو أنتم ما عم بتحسوا إنه هن رح يقلدوكم، بس هن عم بيتفرجوا عليكم كثير منيح. مهارة التواصل كثير مهمة، خصوصا عند أولاد، خصوصا بهالوقت. أولادنا رح يعرفوا كيف يحكوا عن مشاعرهم وعن أفكارهم بطريقة كتير صحيحة. كمان رح يعرفوا كيف يبنوا علاقات منيحة مع الناس اللي حواليهم، وكمان رح تزيد نسبة ذكائهم بالمدرسة وكمان بالشغل. هلأ ما تتضايقوا إذا أولادكم عندهم صعوبات بهالمهارة، هالشي كتير طبيعي. فيكم تساعدوهم، فيكم تتدربوا معهم أو تدربوهم ليحسنوا هالمهارات بطرق مختلفة. I also wanted to share our social media pages. So we have a few different sessions similar to this one on there that you can join. We have ones for parents specifically, and we also have ones for teens and youth, and those relate more to substance use and also developing other important skills like decision making and goal setting. I've also included my contact information, and I'm open to answering any questions if anyone has them now.
Thank you, Omnia, for this beautiful presentation in both Arabic and English. Can you hear me now? Thank you, Omnia, for this beautiful presentation in both Arabic and English. Can you hear me now?
I am having a hard time hearing you, but it's coming a little delayed. I can hear you, yes.
If you click on a cam mic and you can adjust the source of your audio, that might be an issue. I know that you're hearing me from the broadcast, which there is a few seconds difference, it will be lagging. At any case, thank you for this presentation, and it was very informative. Dear listeners, if you have any questions or comments for Omnia, please put them in the comments. We will convey them to her. In the meanwhile, I wanted to share a clip with you in celebration of last month's Black History Month. This is by student Fatma Ilahi from Universal Learning Academy, and she will be reciting or performing part of the speech of former First Lady Michelle Obama.
I would like to share some words from the final speech of former First Lady Michelle Obama. I want our young people to know that they matter, that they belong. Don't be afraid. Be focused. Be determined. Be hopeful. Be empowered. Empower yourself with good education. Then get out there and use that education to build a country worthy of your boundless promise. Lead by example with hope. Never fear. I am so grateful to all educators for your passion and your dedication and all the hard work on behalf of the next generation. Thank you for everything you do for our kids and our country.
Thank you, Fatma, for a very clear communication as we are on this topic. Omnia, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, now we're great. So a few questions. When two siblings, they get into an argument and one is right and the other is wrong, how can parents make that statement or make that judgment without making one sibling feel that the other is a favorite or yes?
Great question. It's really hard when we have different siblings at home, and we really want to make sure that we are not giving favors or thinking one's more right than the other. So a great tip that I can give you is take whatever they're talking about outside of themselves. Don't relate it to my son or daughter, so don't relate it to Adam or Yasmin. Take it out. So if they're talking about a specific toy, they're talking about whatever it is, take it out between them two and say, okay, if you were at school and you saw two students arguing about a toy, or one stole from the other one, or one scribbled on someone's paper, what would you think? So really take it out of themselves. So a lot of times that argument is just really because one doesn't want to say that I'm wrong, that the other one's right. So if you take it outside of the actual situation that you have at home and relate it to outsider students, that could be a good way for them to really see what's going on without you saying this one's right and this one's wrong.
Great. And as far as encouraging expression and communication skills, how do we accommodate for an introverted child versus an extroverted child? Is there a different way to approach them when encouraging them to express themselves in more verbal way?
So also a really good question. So if we have an introverted child, they I'm not going to say that they don't have good communication skills. They might have great skills. They just don't like to share those skills with other people. So it will take them a little bit more time to get comfortable. Even with practicing at home, it could take them a little bit more time to really feel comfortable and to really find the best way that they can express themselves without being too much out there and without feeling uncomfortable. So I would give them all the time that they need and also give them a lot of different options. So, if facial expressions is not the best thing and they don't feel comfortable with that, offer them a different way to express themselves, their thoughts and their feelings, and a lot of patience.
Thank you. I love the different games that you've recommended. There is, especially during the pandemic time, there were a lot of popular board games and social games that started to become more popular and more used by families. Is there ones that you want us to be cautious about, and are there ones that you recommend?
So I would look at this from an age group standpoint. So if we're talking about really young children, then I wouldn't be too worried as long as we're really using these different games to help them practice communicating, practicing their facial expressions, practicing how to understand what someone else is feeling, then you should be okay. Now, if we're talking about a little bit of our older youth and older children, I would just, be cautious of those online games. You don't always know what's going on. So there's a lot of online communication-based games and platforms. So I would just be a little bit cautious of those and just really being aware of what's out there.
Okay. I have a personal question. So sometimes I'm playing Monopoly with my children. And, if one of them wins, or the nature of Monopoly, that a person accumulates wealth and becomes the 1%, sort of.
Yeah.
So how do you communicate to the children that this is just a game and does not necessarily reflect real life behavior?
Yeah. A great question. So before I answer this question, I'm just going to point something out really quickly. So in addition to just Monopoly, could be any board game that we play at home, especially when we have younger children and they lose and they throw a tantrum. Easily, we just say, you know what? Yeah, you won. We just change the little toys that we have in the board game and say, oh, yeah, you won. We made a mistake. Avoid that. Don't do that. Real life is not like that. So if they are in school and they get a bad grade, we can't say, oh, yeah, I'm just going to erase the bad grade and give you a good one. We can't do that in real life. So it's really, really important to avoid the, hey, it's okay. Yeah, you did okay, just because they're throwing a tantrum or they're really sad about, not doing well. Teach them how to kind of take responsibility for losing. At the end of the day, usually these games are based on luck or strategy that they haven't built yet. And with time, they will win. So tell them, hey, you know what? Let's try again. So maybe you can win this time. Or let me give you a strategy that you can use in order to win. Now, when we're talking about Monopoly specifically, and your children are always like, oh, how, you're winning and we aren't. Use the same thing. Tell them, have you seen Monopoly in real life? No, usually not. Point out good things that they have and you don't, so they don't feel bad about themselves. So I'm sure our kids have different skills that we don't have ourselves. So you can tell them, hey, you have that one skill. It doesn't relate to this game, but it's in real life and you're really good at it and you can utilize it that way. But yeah, don't tell them it's okay, you won, just so they can stop crying. This will really hurt them in real life, especially when they're in school and at work as well.
Yeah, what's happening with me is exactly the opposite. Is that
Okay.
I'm always winning, and they're kind of they play with kindness, so they just forgive each
I
other
see.
and they give each other money, and the game takes forever. Nobody wins at the end. But when I win, they kind of take it offensively, and I try to
Right.
explain to them that this is the game. But in real life, I mean, of course, kindness wins, but in this game, kindness doesn't win. So sometimes we have to separate between, let them separate between their emotions during the game and their emotions outside the game.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it will be challenging for them to play any game if they take it in that way.
You're right. Another thing that you can do is help them separate the difference between emotional thinking and just thinking with their brain. You can give them a few different scenarios and tell them what would be my emotional decision and what would be my, good decision based on thoughts and facts. And this could really help them differentiate between the two.
All right, thank you. So I'll show your message to my children when they lose the next time. Thank you, Omnia, and thank you for everyone who followed this presentation. Please, if you find it useful for anyone else, please do share it. It will be available immediately on YouTube and Facebook, wherever you're watching it right now. Thanks again for LAHC and for you, Omnia, and for everyone.
Thank you so much for having us.
Possible, Maryam, and everyone else in HES Academies who work behind the scene to make this possible. And have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.